Let's put a pause on that one here. All right. Welcome, friends and social media audience participants. Welcome to today's live stream of Selling That House. And for today's live stream, this is the third episode that we are doing for you, where I've got two reoccurring hosts coming back in to share their thoughts, some of their stories, and of course, what I call their best practices when these life events, a couple in particular, when these life events set the stage for selling that house. And so with that said, let me add my first host into the conversation. And as part of getting her all warmed up, a nice warm welcome, let's ask her peers, her co-workers, to give her a nice round of applause. Here we go. There you have it, Colleen. They're calling your name, your walk-on video. How are you doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. So for this third episode that we have set the stage and we're shooting this live stream for today, in this episode of Selling That House, you and I have talked about this before in two previous episodes, and that is life events. The one that I know is one of the cornerstones of your practice of family law, which is households separating, getting divorced, because most life events always point to what are you going to do with real estate as an asset. I think I also know this about you for as long as I've known you, which is you value how you communicate with your clients. And I believe that because just like in my business, it's so important. It's a journey, right? It's a process. So can you share with our audience, what are some of your communication best practices?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here again, Bill. And I love talking about this topic. It's so important, especially in the family law space, because in the family law space, we're not talking about documents, transactions, kind of cold, emotionless legalese. Instead, we're talking about fear, grief, identity, and control. Lots of those issues are at play in family law cases. So with such highly emotionally charged legal matters, it's imperative that the family law attorney knows how to communicate well with their clients. And I say that starts from the very first meeting. That starts with our consults when we're first getting to know each other. It's incumbent on that client to really interview attorneys to find an attorney who they feel comfortable communicating with, who they feel comfortable confiding in, and who they feel has their best interest at heart. And it's important for people to know that that often doesn't mean someone who's just going to tell you what you want to hear, but instead is willing to tell you the hard things with love and with an action plan for what to do about those hard things.
Sure.
So I like to establish that relationship early in the first meeting, build that rapport, and to continue to build on that trust by being very upfront about everything that's going on in a case in real time as it's happening. And communicate in the method that makes the most sense for that client. I like to email everything just so that there's a paper trail a client can look back on if we're having an emotional conversation and they may not be taking everything in. It helps to take a look at the email later. But it's also wonderful to have those in-person or phone conversations too, to answer those questions in real time, to hear the tone of voice, to really pick up on your client's cues.
Yeah.
And I think also what's incredibly important is not only communicating frequently and often and with authenticity, but also recognizing when your client may need some additional help in managing the emotions that could be making communication difficult. And that's where an attorney can give a great referral for a therapist or even a divorce coach. Because when you are managing your emotions as well as you can as a client, you're able to use your time with your professionals, with your real estate professionals, with your lawyers, with your financial folks, to really get down to brass tacks and get down to business and make some level-headed decisions.
Yeah, very true. And with your describing that, that's exactly what I remember when I first met you, when I was first in the audience, where you were describing how you run your practice and so forth. So thank you for those great reminders. It is a journey. It has so many twists and turns, right, through that journey. So with that said, let's welcome our next host, Mark Placek, into today's conversation as well. And Mark, as we add you today's live stream, yes, what are your communication best practices? Mark, I know your business, like and similar to Colleen's, it's a journey. It has its twists and turns. What are your communication best practices?
Yeah, I mean, communication is absolutely everything in real estate, with all the moving parts, all the different people, and all the emotions. I mean, emotions run very high in real estate. I operate under the belief that if a customer has to reach out to me to find out what is going on, I have failed. So I always try and be proactive, get out in front of it, and keep everybody updated. Now, when we're in a real estate transaction, there's of course the buy side and then the sell side. I keep things more streamlined on the sell side, meaning that what I typically do is I'll communicate up front, hey, these are going to be your commonly asked questions from buyers. I'll keep a checklist so that I can be out of the seller's hair and just get the job done for them, because they don't want to be taking my call 100 times, a week, right? So typically I'll streamline everything for my sellers, and my Monday mornings are all time blocked on updating my sellers on, hey, on this listing, we had 4 showings over the weekend. Here's where all 4 people are at. Here's the feedback. And I update them weekly, so that they're all kept informed on what's going on. And then buyers, we typically communicate as needed. I mean, sometimes it's every day. Sometimes it's every few days, depending on that buyer's journey. In this market here, things move very fast and things are very competitive for buyers. So some buyers I'm in tune with every day as we're aggressively looking. Other buyers, we're sitting back and just waiting for that next listing to come on to come see it. And in that case, sometimes that journey can stretch out over multiple years because it is so difficult to find something.
Oh, wow. And I concur with you. Some of our clients' journeys are a few months and some are several years. It always just depends, right?
Very much so.
So, Colleen, question for you, because I know you value and you hold a high regard to your communication best practices. Does it make it hard for you to do what you do for the benefit of the client when the other partners, when the other team members may not be as much of a rock star as you are? And how do you solve that problem?
You know, that's a great question. And I'm super lucky because the partners I work with are, we're all different to be sure, but we're all very like-minded when it comes to client service and giving that white glove service and hand-holding that a lot of our clients need. So we all communicate early, often, and beyond business hours, nights, holidays, and weekends, because that's when things come up. But in the scenario where maybe the communication is a bit different, it's really helpful to have the conversations with your team. Make sure you're aligned on, what your standards are for what a client needs. And sometimes you need to tailor that approach to this specific client. Sometimes what one client might need is completely different than another. Some are a little more anxious, need a bit more hand-holding. Others are, much more assured, don't need constant communication, don't want constant communication. And it's really reading your clients and then also making sure your team is on the same page.
I like that. Mark, what are your thoughts on that same question?
Yeah, just piggybacking on what Colleen had said, and that's crucial, especially in our business here, is to just ask people, hey, what are your preferred methods of communication? Because you're right. Some people want their hands held. Other people are like, oh, I don't want to hear from you until it's done, right? So I want to make sure that I'm matching their style. That's super important. Your original question was, hey, what happens when a teammate, repeat your original question just so I can pick it back up.
Yeah. I am of the belief that in the business that we're in, what we have to deliver as an outcome for our client, it's a team effort. And there are times when a team member that's part of being the team on the field, it was assembled. We don't always have control of being able to grab the right team member from the bench onto the field. I think what you, Mark, and Colleen said is so true. You have to adapt, but adapting doesn't mean that you change the skeleton, the framework of the standard that you're going to deliver for your client. So that's my opinion.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. Let's talk about in all three of our businesses, and there are times it's intertwined. Let's start with you, Mark. How do you go about setting and managing expectations? Because the business that we're all in, we're dealing with people, we're dealing with a life event, we're dealing with sometimes the complexity of real estate. It's not always easy. It's supposed to be, but it's not always easy.
Yeah, I mean, I always just set the expectations right in our initial consultation is that, hey, here's how I operate. But more importantly, I want to know how they operate, and so that I can be amenable to how they operate and go off their line of communication, right?
Yeah.
I think that's super important. I'll always set the expectations, and I'll ask people straight up, how do you want me to be? One of the big examples I give is for a buyer. If a buyer's on the fence about a property, I like to say that I'm never a pushy salesperson. However, some buyers want that. So I'll just ask them straight up and I'll tell them two stories. I had a story once where we were in multiple offers and my client was terrified or, a little skittish about putting in a heavier offer. She ended up not going strong enough and she was very angry at me that I didn't push her, give her over the edge. Right. Okay. And then I've had other people who are like, I'll say, hey, the home is listed at 400. You need to be at 425. And that may scare them. So I'll tell those stories straight up and just say, hey, listen, we're going to be a time where you're going to have to make a really hard decision. How do you want me to operate? I'm going to be very matter of fact with you. Right. If you do need me to nudge you, I will. But if you do need me to kind of kick back and let you feel out the market, in these situations, I will as well. And I think people really appreciate that, because
Yeah.
nobody wants to be pushed, but at the same time, there's also many people who have trouble getting themselves off the fence. And so sometimes they do need somebody to help them get off the fence and give them cold hard advice.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mark. No one wants to be sold. No one wants to be forced. But I will say this. I think all consumers, all clients that must rely on experts like ourselves to do what we do to give them the outcome that they want to be led. So, Colleen, how do you go about setting and managing expectations?
I think setting and managing expectations has to do with the communication that you have right from the jump.
Yeah.
When I have that initial consult with the client, I'm telling them, this is your case. You're just entrusting me with it. So with that, you can expect to hear from me every single time there's an update, pretty much in real time, because you deserve and you have a right to know all of this. On top of that, I let them know that if they reach out to me, say via email, they can expect a response same day or within 24 hours. And I also give them my cell phone just in case there's something emergent that comes up on a night, holiday, or weekend where I might not be in front of my computer looking at my email. So I set those expectations early and I ask them, does that work for you, or are you looking for something else? And if they're looking for something else and that's something I could give, we talk about that. We have an agreement, so we know what we're doing. And like I mentioned, no two clients are the same. So I have some clients that prefer to communicate in a specific way that's different than others. And it really just kind of depends on the needs of the client and what they're looking for.
Yeah. My contribution to this question that I've asked of the two of you is this. As part of how I set and manage expectations, I focus on what is your next step, Mr. and Mrs. Client. Why is that your next step? And then I talk about how we're going to move you through that next step and all of the subsequent ones. And what I've come to realize is when clients know that up front, and Colleen, you are spot on, it's always how you communicate from the start, and are you consistently moving through the journey with the same tone, the same rhythm, and so forth. So that's how I go about doing that for myself and my clients. As we wrap up today's live stream, let's talk about what I call the buffet of emotions. Colleen, I think you nailed it without me prompting you at the top of this live stream. You talked about the different emotions. I have a feeling you go through all of them, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, family law is one of the most emotional areas of law you can go into, because you're dealing not just with like transactions, you're dealing with people's home life, what goes inside the four walls of their homes, what happens with their retirement, what happens with their children. Really, nothing can be more personal. So with that, we need to give it the respect it deserves, and really sit in the emotions with the clients, because when we're making decisions, emotions are always part of it. So we want to be sure that we're talking through the emotions with our clients, offering them additional services or support where we see that they're struggling and they need that. But it's also really important for us to hear the emotions so we know where they're coming from and why they're making the decisions they're making. And then they get the benefit of us as, outside participants, if you will, observing things from the outside looking in and telling them, I see that you are making a decision based on this emotion, and what we may recommend removing the emotion out of it is X, Y, or Z, which may be in your best interest, and here's why. So you're able to be the voice of reason sometimes.
Yeah. Do you feel that when you are at the top of your game, being very emotionally intelligent and aware, it really helps, right?
Oh, not only does it help, I think it's necessary to do this job. If you don't have that emotional intelligence, if you're not interested in hearing about people's emotions,
Right.
you're doing yourself and your client a disservice, because it's so important to know where they're coming from. And it's also important for them to feel heard. So you have to be willing to have those difficult conversations.
Very true. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, very true. I mean, there's a definite plethora of emotions that go on the real estate side, and it's super important as a realtor to be in tune to those emotions and to also be emotionless. Many times, many times I go on that journey with clients. I understand that, they're in a housing crunch and we need our offer accepted, and it can be kind of a nail biter on my side too, having done this many a times, but still, we're not numb to it. But it is super important to stay level-headed. It's super important to listen to the clients and give them sound advice based on logic and experience, and not on maybe the emotions at the time. So it is good to be separated from your client's emotions, at the same time being the professional. And I'm sure you both experience this, is many times you get, sucked into the emotional component with it as well. But it's super important to be that level-headed support for your clients. And there's, a little inside joke around the real estate is that we also act as therapists, which is very true. We're seeing people as they're facing their, there's a lot of fear involved. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of, there's excitement involved. There's greed involved. We'll see it in all sides of it. This is typically the largest transaction of people's lives. And so it's important for us to be a level-headed advisor to them on it.
Yeah. And I have a feeling in the 3 live streams that we have shot, today being the 3rd one, I have a feeling, I feel it virtually through all of you, that we have that emotional intelligence and awareness to be the voice of calm for our clients, to be the active listeners to our clients, because you both are so correct. We go through what I call that buffet of emotions. Sometimes it's anger, right? It's fear, a lot of anxiety, and then let's be real with the last one, excitement. So for Mark and myself, whether we are helping clients that are selling or buying, yes, it's the excitement of selling. I got so much money, or buying, I got the new home. And maybe for you, Colleen, the excitement of your clients that are looking at you and then saying to you, thank you for helping me get to my next chapter.
Definitely.
Right? Okay, audience members, for all of you, yes, this is for all of you who stayed with us through all 3 of these live streams over the past 4 weeks. Both Colleen and Mark, thank you for joining us, whether it's that of coming into our live stream or you're catching this as an on-demand recording. Now, as we wrap up, you may be thinking, are you guys going to do this more often? I would love to. And with your support and your encouragement, we would love to do that for you. So simply scan the QR code, start a conversation with me, talk to me about what you would like to hear, what you would like to see in upcoming live streams. And I will do my best to twist the arm of Colleen, twist the arm of Mark, and ask them to come back in, and we will drop some more stories, some more wisdom and value for you. So, Music Posse, let's play us out, given this short week of the Memorial Day week post event. Here we go.